Hey, what's up? All right. I've been messing around with my aquariums for so long, I kind of forgot about my vivariums and my Paludarium in the middle there. So I thought I'd give a quick couple of updates on that and tell you what I'm doing here. So I've got 3 tanks. Step back here. 2 tanks on the outside have crested geckos in them. And the middle tank just has a betta in it. I've got nothing living up top. Don't really have an interest in anything living up top either, but I just like the way everything looks together. So let's go ahead and take a look at my first tank. And we can kind of see I've got glass open so I can get a better shot. Alright. I got my pink nerve plant. That seems to be growing really well. It's starting to break out. And I might take some clippings of that and use it in the other vivarium, but I'm going to let it grow a little bit more before I do that. I've also got my neos in here. I had a lot of neo pups come out, small ones. For those of you who are not into terrestrial plants, you can see that that's how these plants reproduce. They actually spawn off another branch onto another plant, and then the mother plant will actually die back. So these are doing all right. You can see that one over there is actually starting to die back quite a bit. These are doing all right. I'd like to get them a little bit more light, but it seems that at the end of the bulb, the spectrum is just not as strong as in the middle of the bulb. So I really need to rethink these 3 together because they're just a little bit over 4 feet by about a foot, and it's starting to really cause some problems with growth being really slow. Or you can see my mondo grass is kind of browning out, and so I'm not too happy about that. Not getting enough light in there. The ficus is not really growing that well either. It's kind of just holding its own. So it's been like that for, it's going to be almost a year now. So I'm not too happy with the growth in these outside tanks. Some of them have been good, but that's really it. So, and for substrate, obviously I've got a layer of moss to keep things damp, and then I've got Miracle Grow potting soil mixed with coconut coir because I had a lot left over, otherwise I probably would not have used it. And I've got some red wiggler worms, probably about, I'd say about 30 red wiggler worms in there is what I put in originally. God knows what they are now, but they're in there to aerate the soil and help with the fertilizer. So also something interesting to point out is people often have a problem with snails. And there's one right there. Oh, back up a little bit. There we go. So I have snails in this tank. I don't have them in any of my other tanks. And I was getting rid of them. I was picking them out, and it was a losing battle. Come to find out, they really love the gecko poop. And what I realized was that this gecko loves to crap on the glass. And I noticed that there wasn't that much crap on the glass anymore. And I didn't really realize why until one morning I saw the snails eating it. And they seem to be loving eating the poop off the glass. And they're not really killing my plants. They're not eating them. They're not chewing up the leaves. And you can see I don't have any chewed up leaves or anything. So I'm starting to think that either I got lucky with a specific species of snail, or snails are not half as bad as people make them out to be. So we'll see about that. That's been, I gotta say, the better part of 5 or 6 months that it's been like that. So we'll see how that goes. Next tank, and I just recently rescaped this tank a little bit, so it looks a little barren, is where my female cresty is. I don't know where she is right now. See if we can find her. Maybe? No. Okay. Anyway, so I recently rescaped this tank. I've got really decent growth over here with my ficus pomilia. That's this plant here. I'm rearranged it. I'm waiting for this to grow out in this area here, and also to grow up the back wall. And that's probably going to fill this tank out about as far as I want. This particular neo here, this is a larger neo, Pink Lady. It's a hybrid, and so that's about as big as it gets. I'm going to wait for it to pop out a little bit, and other than that, and I'll replace it with the pups as they grow out, but that's about as big as she's going to get, so I probably won't put anything else in here. I might put a couple of fireballs in here, but first I want to solve my light problem. So, as you can see, I've got, she keeps knocking this over, but it belongs in there. Variety of Tillandsias in there growing, and so it looks kind of barren, but you know, it'll grow out really nice, and it looks a lot better layout-wise than it did before. So that's that tank. And for those of you that are interested, I monitor my temperature and my humidity settings with an Oregon Scientific sensor. So I've got one of these in each of the tanks. That was that one there. Got another one right there. Thank you, Gecko, for crapping on that. Makes good for a good shot. And it'll take up to 3, and it feeds back to this monitor here. So I can look through, and I can go through all of my different tanks. From tank 1 to tank 2 to tank 3. And I can see everything from the humidity to the temperature that's on there. Okay. 2 is actually sitting outside the tanks, so, and then 3 is inside the tank. For those of you who might be curious why there's such a difference. My middle tank, my Paludarium, is actually going really well. This is probably my best growing tank. I get the best color on my, that's the same pink lady I just showed you. I get the best color in this tank because it's in the middle of the bulb. It's the strongest part of the spectrum that the bulb is giving off. So I'm getting a lot of good growth up top. I get a lot of roots getting thrown down by the Neo. That's a Neo Fireball in there. That's a pink lady that used to be a pup. Used to be very small. It's probably doubled in size in the past 4 weeks or so, I would say. And then the ficus, just, I constantly trim this. It grows like a weed in here. It loves the humidity. It loves the moisture. You know, it's put roots down into the water, and so I never have to water any of these plants in here, really. And there's our lone little resident, betta. I'm sure I mentioned before where we got him. Ended up getting him from a party. They were giving him out as party gifts, which didn't really make me too happy. But very, very cool. My first experiment with dirt. And a lot of you may cap your dirt. In this particular tank, I did not cap the dirt. That is pure dirt. And I put in some, it's not completely covered, but some oak leaves. Now those oak leaves, those are from Florida oaks, a live oak down here in Florida. They shed their leaves, not like a regular tree, but they shed their leaves in the fall, but they never actually lose all their leaves. So these leaves seem to be doing pretty well. They're in here for, I don't know, 6 months now. And obviously they're degrading, but they're not degrading half as fast as I thought they would. They're actually still looking really good. And the dirt has settled down a lot. The clarity on this tank, it's taken months to get there. But the dirt has finally settled into being a submerged dirt. And, oh, as you can see, it doesn't have a lot of suspended particles. Now this is also my grow out tank for my ivory apple snails, or mystery snails as they like to sell them as. I put 2 larger apple snails in here. They met, they fell in love, and they left me with a shitload of baby snails. So I got a shitload of baby snails, and I'm growing them out, and they're getting big. And pretty soon I'm not going to know what the fuck to do with them. So if anybody wants any baby snails, hit me up, let me know. I've got quite a few. I'll ship them to you cheap. Other than that, that's really kind of a good update for my planted tanks. And coming up next, I'll do a quick update on my aquarium, which right now has the lights out. Because as I mentioned before, I run a 5 hours on, 4 hours off, 5 hours on, so I can get CO2 to build back up in the water for the plants. But growth is going really well in that. I can't complain. I've got great growth in it, but I'll do an update on that later. So, but that's it for these tanks right now. So that's my little slice of nature that I get to look at. You know, it kind of looks like a piece of the forest with a little water feature, a waterfall. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Bye.